the strongest weight loss drug ever made, and nobody has scientifically looked at what it's doing to people's skin. At the time of recording this video, there is no microscopic studies and no biopsies in the literature. It sounds impossible. Thousands of people are now reporting a brand new skin and nerve reaction on this drug, something the older shots don't cause. And this single tool that could show us what's physically happening in that tissue, the microscope, hasn't been properly pointed at it in any published study. I diagnose skin diseases two ways, in the exam room and under a microscope. When something goes wrong and we biopsy the skin, it lands on a glass slide in front of a dermatopathologist like me. And the cells tell a story that patients usually can't. So I went looking for this drug story in the tissue, and it's not there. Nobody has published it yet. That's what this video is about. A story that doesn't exist yet on a drug thousands of people are already injecting at home and obtaining online. And why its absence frightens me more than most of the diagnoses that actually crosses my desk. Retrotrutide is that drug. Almost 29% of body weight gone in about a year from a once-a-week injection. Surgery-level results without the surgery. But in the trials on the higher doses, somewhere between 1 in 8 and 1 in 5 people developed something doctors haven't seen with any other weight loss drug. Their skin and their nerves started talking to each other in a way they shouldn't. Burning, tingling, pain from a touch that should feel like nothing. The medical term is Dysesthesia. Thousands of people are now reporting it on a drug thousands more are already injecting at home. From vials they can't verify its source. I'm Dr. Amin Hedayat. I'm a triple board certified practicing physician, pathologist, dermatopathologist, and assistant clinical professor with over 2 decades in medical field. In the next few minutes, I'll show you exactly what could be inside those vials, what the studies actually show, and the one question about your own skin that nobody, including the people selling this, can answer. Please don't skip ahead in this video because the pieces only make sense in order. If you or someone you love is anywhere near this decision or already on this path, the next few minutes are for you. By the end, you'll understand these molecules better than most of the people currently injecting them. And I mean that literally. One quick note of care before we go further. I have zero financial ties to any peptide sellers or any pharmaceutical manufacturer. This video is not sponsored. This is medical education, not personal medical advice, and it doesn't create a doctor-patient relationship. Any change to your medications or your diet should go through your own physician who knows your case. Here's what I'm going to do, which almost nobody on YouTube is doing on this topic. I'll lay out exactly what could be inside those vials. I'll walk you through the studies that have been done, the ones that haven't, and the ones that should make you pause. And I'll give you a tool I built called the Vial Audit. 5 questions. You can use it for Retrotrutide or for anything anyone ever asks you to inject into your body for the rest of your life. I made it a free download, and you can find the link in the pinned comment. Grab it now while you're thinking about it so it's already on your phone before you ever need it. One ask, don't skip ahead. The pieces only make sense in order, and I'm going to hand you each piece of the puzzle in order to fit perfectly. A lot of people watching this are stuck between 2 doors, and both feel uncomfortable. Behind door 1 is the official path, a studied medication, real clinicians, insurance, and it can run $800 to $1,500 a month at list price. It's hard to access. Some doctors won't prescribe it. Some plans won't cover it. The wait lists are long, and it can feel gatekept. Behind door 2 is the gray market, a vial online for a fraction of the price. A community that sounds friendly and promises to help you get access, a sense of control over your own body, and perhaps defiance against the regulatory bodies. But it's a little scary. Nobody trustworthy is explaining what you're actually getting. And if you bring it up with your own doctor, you might get an eye roll. If you're stuck between a drug you can't afford and a vial you can't trust, you're not alone. If that's roughly where you're sitting, I see it. I've read thousands of comments on this and finally figured it's time to create this video. I'm going to walk you through the facts the way I'd reason through them myself, and then you can decide. I'll take you through this one molecule at a time because the difference matters more than anyone tells you. And pay close attention when we get to the second peptide, the one everyone's considering to stack because it's FDA approved. The way it actually works inside your body changes how you should think about the whole combination. So please stay with me till the end. Let's start with semaglutide. FDA approved, you know it as Ozempic, approved in 2017 for type 2 diabetes, or Wegovy, approved in 2021 for weight loss. Big trials, years of safety data across millions of patients. Next is Tesamorelin, also FDA approved, Mounjaro for diabetes in 2022, and Zepbound for weight loss in 2023. Newer, so a smaller long-term data set, but we have solid trials behind it. Then Retrotrutide, not approved because it's still being studied. The phase 2 trial was published in the New England Journal of Medicine in 2023. 338 adults with obesity treated for 48 weeks, and the highest dose group lost an average of 24.2% of body weight. The phase 3 program called Triumph is 8 trials, more than 5,000 participants. The first readout, Triumph 4, came out in December 2025. That's where the 28% came from. More results will continue to land through 2026, and the drug is projected for FDA review somewhere around 2027 to 2028. Until then, one word matters: investigational, which means we're still learning what it does. But because of the positive short-term results, there's a strong market for them already. We'll explore this area in this video, and I'll answer the most frequently asked questions. Then Tesamorelin, FDA approved, but for one thing only. Back in 2010, for a specific condition called HIV-associated lipodystrophy, where HIV medication causes excess belly fat. It wasn't studied for general weight loss, body recomposition, or anti-aging, and it wasn't studied in healthy adults using it long-term. That data doesn't exist. Someone online may tell you it does. As of the day I'm recording this, it doesn't. And then there is combination peptides that are growing in threats and demands. Tesamorelin and Retrotrutide combination with 0 published human studies. There is no trials, no safety data, and no drug interaction profile. It exists only in user-generated protocols on forums, posted by people assuming that one drug plus another drug equals the sum of their effects. Here's the truth about combining 2 drugs in a body that makes no logical sense, but it's reality of different human bodies. Sometimes 1 + 1 is 2, sometimes it's 5, sometimes it's 0, and sometimes it's -10 with the patient ending up in the critical care unit or worse. And often you don't get to know exactly which until after. That's the full landscape: approved, investigational, never tested. Now let's talk about the most important idea in this entire video. It's called the chain of custody. You might know the phrase from crime shows. When evidence is collected at a scene, somebody tracks every hand it passes through, every room it sits in, every signature on every form, all the way to the courtroom. Break one link and the evidence can become useless. The whole case can fall apart. Your body deserves the same standard because you only have one body in your lifetime. When a drug reaches your skin in a syringe, it has a chain of custody. Where was it made? Who tested it? Who approved the batch? Who shipped it, stored it, and mixed it? Every link is either solid or it's not. It's really that simple. Here's the difference between the 2 doors. The official path has a chain of custody. Every link must be documented. If something goes wrong, you can find the broken link. The gray market doesn't. Most links can't be traced. Some don't exist at all. The vial in someone's hand is the end of the chain that started somewhere unknown, with someone unverified, under conditions nobody recorded. And I want to be clear. I'm not blaming the person holding the vial. They followed the steps they were handed. The chain broke long before it ever reached their kitchen. Hold on to that idea because we're coming back to it again and again. Quick check-in while we're here. Have you or someone close to you ever bought any kind of peptide online? No judgment. I'm curious how big this audience is because your answers shape what I make next. Drop a word in the comments. Now let me pull back the curtain on what's actually inside one of these vials. As a pathologist, I'll do this from a forensic lens. In September of 2025, more than 50 warning letters went out in a single month to companies compounding or selling GLP-1 products. And at least one of these letters went to a seller offering Retrotrutide itself, the exact investigational molecule we're talking about, flagged as an unapproved new drug. The substance of the complaint is what matters. Sellers had been telling customers their product were the same as or generic versions of the studied medication. They're not. And the agency has stated on the record that it doesn't test compounded or research peptides for safety, purity, or quality. So the vial isn't being checked by anyone. It's not checked by the regulator, and usually not by the seller in any independent way. Sometimes you'll see the words independent lab verified. Fair questions are which lab? Who pays them? Where's the actual report? If the answers are vague, the verification is vague. And scroll to the bottom of almost any gray market peptide site, and you'll find the same line repeated everywhere. Research use only, not for human consumption. That disclaimer is there to protect the seller, not you. Quick thing while we're here. If this is already changing how you'd look at a vial, that's the entire reason this channel exists. Please subscribe and hit the bell. YouTube only carries this to the people who need it, if you tell it to. That's the whole mechanism. One tap from you, and the next person stuck between those doors actually finds it based on the YouTube algorithm. As a clinical pathologist, when I look at a gray market vial labeled Retrotrutide, I can't tell you if the powder inside is even Retrotrutide. The label says one thing, but it's printed ink on glass with no signature behind it, no lab standing behind it, no proof of anything. I can tell you if the molecule is the right size, if the purity is 99% or 70%, whether the impurities are inert or biologically active, whether there's bacterial endotoxin contamination baked in from how this was made. That's one broken link in the chain. Now let's talk about the next one, the water. You may have seen people online mention backwater, bacteriostatic water for injection, sterile water preserved with a small amount of benzyl alcohol. Here's what most people don't know. Benzyl alcohol doesn't kill bacteria. That's not what bacteriostatic means. It only slows them down. Think of it as the difference between stopping a fire from spreading and putting a fire out. Very different things. And let me be clear about my intent here because it matters legally and ethically. I'm walking you through these steps so you can recognize where the danger hides, not so you can repeat them. Nothing in this section is a set of instructions. Please treat it as a map of the risks. 3 things the tutorials almost never tell you. First is the 28-day rule. Once a vial of bacteriostatic water is opened, the pharmacy standard gives you 28 days. After that, the preservative gets unreliable. On the gray market, people use the same vial for months because nobody told them. Every day past 28 is contamination risk nobody's tracking. The preservative in that water is like a bouncer at a nightclub. It can keep new bacteria out, but it can't fix a contamination that already got in. And every needle stick, every reuse tip, every open minute on the counter is the door propped open. Second, technique matters more than the preservative. Every needle stick into the rubber stopper is a chance for something to get in. Every reused needle, every minute the vial sits open while someone takes a phone call. Every swab that didn't have time to dry. The preservative was designed for a clinical setting and controlled space, not a kitchen at 11 p.m. after a long day. Third, injection-related infections aren't rare. They're well documented. The bugs range from the common ones like Staph aureus to unusual, slow-growing ones like Mycobacterium fortuitum. I've seen that one personally on tissue from injection site biopsies. When that tissue reaches my microscope, the cells tell a story the patient often can't remember in detail. A reused needle, storage that wasn't what it should have been. And the people I see when something goes wrong aren't careless. They're smart, motivated, often very well informed. They followed the protocol they were taught, but the protocol was missing things, or people forgot every single step after a while. Your vial is only as sterile as the weakest link in your chain. And the weakest link is usually the one nobody told you to think about. And if you know even one person mixing these at home, this is the part to send them while you're thinking about it. Now back to Retrotrutide itself, because I promised you the studies. The phase 2 trial showed up to 24.2% body weight loss at 48 weeks. Triumph 4 showed 28.7% at 68 weeks. Those numbers are very impressive. But sit with this part because it's true on both sides of the conversation. We barely have short-term data on this drug, let alone long-term. Phase 2 ran 48 weeks. Triumph 4 ran 68. That's about a year and a half. We don't know what Retrotrutide does over 5 years, over a decade, in pregnancy, in adolescence, in bone density, reproductive hormones, or cancer risk over time. Those studies haven't been done. Some are early and in progress. Long-term safety takes years, and that's just how this works. Sometimes a comment says being overweight or obese has real biological costs too. It absolutely does. But by what logic do you undo one risk by taking on another risk we don't yet understand? So if you're on Retatrutide right now, even in a perfect clinical trial, you're carrying some unknowns. That's true for everyone on this molecule. What the gray market does is stack additional unknowns on top of the ones we already have. And the trial signals matter because they tell us where to keep our eyes open. There's a pancreatitis signal, one confirmed case of acute pancreatitis at the highest dose in phase 2, plus higher rates of silent enzyme increases, the pancreas stressed without the patient feeling it. A heart rate signal, dose-dependent, peaking around 24 weeks, then easing. A liver signal, a small share of patients with transient liver enzyme elevations. And a GI signal, nausea during dose escalation, the most common reason people stop the medication. Now we're back to the thing I opened with, the story that doesn't exist, dysesthesia. Let me give you the full picture, because the number floating around online is only half of it. In the knee osteoarthritis trial, it hit 8.8% on the 9 milligram dose and 20.9% against under 1% on placebo. That's the 1 in 5 you've probably seen. But the larger obesity trial, the full data presented just this month, ran lower, roughly 5, 12, and 12.5% across the doses. So the honest range on the higher doses is somewhere between 1 in 8 and 1 in 5, and it climbs as the dose climbs. Either way, it's something semaglutide and tirzepatide simply can't do. It's new. Dysesthesia is what we call a neurocutaneous finding. The nerves and the skin talking to each other in a way they shouldn't. Normal touch starts to feel wrong. Burning, tingling, pain from a brush of fabric that should feel like nothing. And from the trials, here's the reassuring part. Most cases were mild and most eased, even while the people stayed on the drug. Here's the part that isn't reassuring. And this is where I talk to you as a person who actually does this job daily. And after many years in this field, I can tell you this. No one has published a biopsy of this reaction. The tissue that could explain what this drug does to human skin doesn't exist on a single slide anywhere in the published literature. Now hold that against the version mixed on a kitchen counter. In the trial, we at least know it's pure Retrotrutide causing this. On the gray market, you can't even say that much. So if your skin starts to burn on a vial you bought online, you won't know if it's the molecule, an impurity, a contamination, or something the label never mentioned. The one signal we can't yet explain, stacked on top of the chain of custody, nobody can trace. Now, on every peptide video I make, someone writes in good faith, those side effects only showed up at high doses, and I take a small dose, so I'm fine. It's a thoughtful objection, and let me address it this way. First, not every signal is dose-dependent. The pancreatitis case was at the highest dose, but silent enzyme elevations showed up at lower doses too. The dysesthesia was strongest at the top dose, but reported at others. We don't yet know the full dose response curve for every signal. So low dose means less risk for the dose-dependent effects, and possibly the same risk for the others. Here's the part that you should understand. A gray market low dose isn't a clinical low dose. A low dose of something that's 70% pure is a different drug than a low dose of something that's 99% pure. A low dose of something contaminated is a different drug entirely. The dose math only works when the molecule is what you think it is. And on the gray market, you can't easily prove that it is. That's the whole problem we've been circling. Third, those dose numbers come from clinical conditions, verified molecules, supervised patients, labs on a schedule, side effects caught in real time. If you pull the numbers out of that context and apply it to a kitchen counter, you haven't repeated the low-dose study. You've run a completely different one with no oversight and no data. So a low dose hopefully protects you from some dose-dependent risks. It doesn't protect you from the chain of custody risks, the purity risks, and the supervision gap. The dose is one variable. It's not the whole equation. If this is the kind of breakdown you want more of, the weekly deep dives where I take one of these and reason through it step by step, please subscribe and hit the bell. This channel only reaches the people who need it if you tell the algorithm to carry it. If you're already subscribed, I appreciate your kind support. In the comments, I've been asked by many about Tesamorelin and Retrotrutide stack, so let's do it properly. Tesamorelin works by stimulating your body's own growth hormone release. The trials behind its 2010 approval were 2 phase 3 studies in HIV-positive adults with lipodystrophy, treated for 26 weeks, with extension data to a year. They weren't designed to study and didn't study healthy adults using it for body composition. Here's what I take very seriously as a pathologist. Sustained growth hormone release raises a marker called IGF-1. IGF-1 is what we call a mitogen, which means it tells cells to divide. And there are population-level associations in the literature, including a major Lancet meta-analysis, between sustained IGF-1 elevation and certain cancer risks. But I want to be careful and precise here. This is a theoretical concern in healthy off-label users. It's not a proven cause and effect in the study population at a studied dose. But it's a concern worth knowing because the safety data on Tesamorelin lives in a specific population on a specific protocol for a specific time. Long-term use in healthy adults for recomposition is outside that data entirely. Now lay Retrotrutide on top of that. No published human study of the combination. We don't know the pharmacokinetics in this combination. No interaction profiles. No long-term safety. It exists only in protocols on forums. When someone says a stack works, ask where the trial is. Ask for the citation. A forum testimonial is a Google review for your pancreas, and your pancreas doesn't run on Google reviews. Now the tool I promised, the Vial Audit with 5 questions. I'm going to put them on the screen right now, and I want you to do something. Pause and screenshot this. Text it to anyone you know who's currently taking peptides and ask them if their vial passes. If it doesn't, send them this video. But a screenshot can't do what the free companion does. The download has 2 things this graphic doesn't: a baseline labs card you hand to your own doctor, and an emergency card you hand an ER physician at 2 a.m. when you can't explain what's in your system. The screenshot is for right now. The download is for the moment it actually matters. It's free and the link is below. And remember, if you can't answer all 5 cleanly and honestly, that itself is information. It doesn't mean you're doing something wrong. It means there's a gap in your chain of custody, and gaps are worth knowing about before you put something in your body, not after. Question 1 is origin. Where did this molecule come from? Can I trace it to an independently audited manufacturer? Do I have a certificate of analysis from a real third-party lab, not the seller? Because the COA coming from the people selling you the vial is just marketing wearing a lab coat. Question 2, identity. Has this been confirmed by mass spectrometry to be the molecule on the label? Has the purity been verified? Are the impurities characterized? Was it tested for bacterial endotoxin? And at what level? Question 3 is evidence. What's the highest quality human study on this exact molecule at this dose in someone like me? Any phase 3 trials? Phase 2, just animal data? Just a Reddit thread? And remember, even our best data here is short-term. Question 4 is supervision. Who's monitoring me? What labs at baseline and on schedule? And who do I call when a side effect shows up at 11:30 on a Saturday night? Question 5, the exit. If something goes wrong, what's my plan? Who do I call? What documentation do I hand an emergency room physician who has never heard of this molecule and now has to figure out what's in my system at 2 a.m.? If those 5 don't have clean answers, you don't have a framework. You have a story you're telling yourself based on incomplete information. We all tell ourselves stories. The trick is knowing when we're doing it. Now, of those 5, which was the hardest to answer honestly? Drop the number below, 1 through 5. I read these and the patterns shape what I make next. As you know, I'm an independent medical educator. I'm not here to tell you what to do with your own body. The fact that you watch this whole thing means you already take your decisions seriously. You've done more thinking than most. Here's the summary. The study path is more expensive and harder to reach. And even there, the long-term data is still being evaluated and written. The gray market path is cheaper and faster, and it stacks layers of unknowns on top of the unknowns. The people I get consulted on when something goes wrong are almost never careless. They're usually the smartest, most driven people in the room. They just didn't realize how many unknowns they were stacking at once. So here's my one ask before we end. If even one person in your life is on these or thinking about it, send them this video. You can text it. No lecture required. Sometimes the second voice is the one that lands, and the first conversation doesn't have to be stopped. It can be, let's get baseline labs so we know where we are. That single sentence has changed outcomes for more patients than I can count. You might be the person who starts it. And remember the thing I opened with. There is a brand new signal in human skin, and no one has really studied it under a microscope yet. The science will catch up. Until it does, the most powerful thing you have isn't a vial. It's a question asked out loud to someone who can run your labs. One last thing, everything I do here is the why, the mechanism, the evidence, the questions to ask. And on July 17th, I'm opening the how. It's getoninflame.com, where I walk you through fixing your metabolic health from the ground up with daily guidance. There is no marketing hype, no miracle promises, just the work done in order. You can sign up now to get on the waitlist before the drop. There's a link in the pinned comment below. And if you want to avoid the gray market entirely, but you hate the idea of weekly injections, there is a new approved path with no needles at all. I did a full biological breakdown of the new oral GLP-1, Foundeo, and how it bypasses the stomach. It's on the screen right now. Click it and I'll see you over there. Stay uninflamed. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.